I've been making YouTube videos for the last 12 years. And in those last 12 years, there's really been two videos or two strokes that I think have broken the internet. Not broken the internet per se, but I've gotten so much feedback and so many comments from people in real life who said this swimmer or this stroke was incredible. And I've got a lot of feedback on it. The first one was Dan Smith's easy 1 minute 1000 freestyle. You may have seen, I think it's got probably over 1 million views now, where he makes that 1 minute 10 pace look like 2 minute pace. He just makes it look so easy. That was the first one. The second one was Lukasz Wojt's 43 or 44 minute Ironman swim, where again, he just makes that look so comfortable and so technically perfect that he makes it look like he is going very comfortably when in fact he's going so fast. So today, Lukasz has sent through 2 underwater videos, the front and side, so we can take a look at his technique underneath the water, where we can learn a lot. So let's deep dive into his stroke. I'm going to break it down for you and show you exactly what he's doing and some things that you might be able to take away and implement into your own stroke. So let's get stuck into it. So let's start from the side view here, and we're going to start with the head position. Now, one of the things you'll notice with his head position is that he's looking somewhere slightly forwards. I'd call that 1 to sort of 2 meters in front if we're thinking about the bottom of the pool there. So he's looking slightly forwards, but he's got this really nice neutral spine. So when we think about posture and spine, we don't want it to be completely straight. We'll often find there's this natural arch to it. And the spine should sort of follow this line and the head should follow along with it. That's that neutral spine that we're looking for. And I would often explain that as lengthening through the spine and through the head and neck in order to maintain that sort of posture and head position. So really, really nice head position there. Now, if we have a look at his breathing, you'll see that he's getting what we call split vision. So he's keeping part of that bottom goggle in the water as he gets the breath, which is the goal. Now, as you know, if it's choppy in the open water, it's okay to turn a bit further. The goal isn't necessarily to keep that goggle in for the sake of it. It's to look straight to the side, so we're not looking up too high or behind us, which can throw our alignment out and it can impact what's happening down the line with our body. So we want to imagine as though we've got like a skewer through our head and neck. Our head's on that skewer, and when we turn to breathe, we turn the skewer. So our head turns just to the side and comes straight back. We don't want the head to lift off that skewer. Now, we can't see his legs that much, but what you'll notice here is we've got the head, the hips, and eventually the heels up near the surface. So there are 3 touch points for body position: head, hips, and heels at the surface, which then just gives us this really nice horizontal line through the body. And he looks like he sits really high in the water, like his back and his shoulders are sitting like just out of the water or just below it at times. And sits very nicely in the water there. And the number one thing we want to do is reduce drag, and body position or horizontal body position is the main factor there, typically the main factor there. You will see with his kick that he's got really good flexion through his ankles. So you can see the toes pointed nicely there and really good ankle flexibility. We don't see that with everyone because of that range of motion through the ankles, but as best you can, we want to try and just keep those toes mostly pointed behind you. Where we sometimes will see the toes pointed down is at the bottom of the down kick when the foot flicks down. And that's normal, and that you kind of want that because it kind of that's what's going to flick that water off the foot, give you that little bit of propulsion there. So it's okay to see the toes pointed down at the bottom of the down kick, but then on the up kick, we want them to get back to pointing behind you there. Now, if we have a look at the entry, so the entry when the hand enters out in front, you'll see that he's just getting the fingertips in before the elbow. So we've got the fingers first entry, and then the rest of the arm comes in. Now, if you've done our 5-day catch challenge, you'll know that in the first day, we talk about the entry position where we want the fingers to go first, like you can see. And we want to have the elbows slightly up. So it's like this triangle position above the water. And if you enter there, you don't need to think of spearing the water where you're trying to get your wrist and your forearm to follow your hand in. Because sometimes I've seen people do some pretty funky things with their arms over the water to try and do it. If you just get the fingers in first with the elbow up here, and then just think of straightening the arm, that's all you need to do. And you'll actually hear the elbow sort of slap down a little bit with a good entry. So you don't need to spear the water per se, because I find sometimes it can just cause people to do some weird things with their arms. So we get the fingers first, the arm straightens out in front, and you can see this position I love. So when we are running clinics and we're teaching the catch, I talk about this position out the front here as the start of the catch. And what we want to aim for here is to have the fingers just below the wrist just below the elbow, a very slight downwards angle here. And you'll also notice that the fingertips are about underarm depth. If we take it back a frame, you'll see there, fingertips just below the underarm. Now, the reason that position is important to start the catch in is because here, the arm's really streamlined. So you're really efficient in that position. And this entire position, all the way from the arm to all the way through the body, this is when you're most streamlined in the stroke. So this is almost when you're traveling at your fastest point, because you're creating the least amount of drag. And so that's really important to get there. Sometimes we see people will enter the water and they'll go down too deep, like they're just getting the hand down there, but that's too much drag to be able to make the most of that really fast position in the stroke. So think of it as almost having the arm completely straight out in front for a split second to then move into the next phase of the catch. So that's the start of the catch. And sometimes I find that like a good drill to practice that can be, if you're just doing like a front kick drill with both hands out in front, practice this position where you've got the fingers just below the wrist and so on. You should be able to feel the water coming just over the top of your knuckles there. And that way, you know that you've got the right depth. Whereas if you can feel the water on your hand, let's say your hand was up here, if you can feel the water on the palm of your hand, you're probably up too high, which is a pretty common position as well. So from there, on his left-hand side, he moves through the catch. So the catch is essentially from about here down to here. Now you'll see at the end of the catch, which is around about there, if we draw this line from his shoulder to his fingertips, his elbow is just above that straight line. Now that's what we classify as a high elbow catch. So think of that almost like elbow forwards when you complete the catch there. That is a high elbow position. And that's what we're aiming for. And the reason that's an important position to get to is your big paddle, which is your hand and your forearm here. That's together, that's straight. And that's angled in a way where you can then press back. And that is primarily what moves you forwards. It's one of the main factors there. So that's what we're looking to get with that high elbow catch position. Now, often when people are thinking of high elbow, I've seen people do some weird things with it. They think high elbow means elbow's got to be right up near the surface here, but obviously you can see that's not the case. The elbow is not near the surface. The other thing they try and do is sometimes go really extreme where they're going for like this 90-degree catch. Now, I've seen a handful of swimmers do that. Grant Hackett, Sun Yang, they're getting fairly close to that sort of 90-degree catch. But for the majority of swimmers, that is not possible or comfortable. So it is okay to be just in this high elbow range. And by just in that range, I mean like elbow just above that straight line that we draw at that point in the stroke. You can then see as he continues on, as he moves through here, you can see that here, now this is the power diamond, which you might have heard me explain on some videos before. Now with the power diamond from the side, and I'll show you this from the front, from the side we see the shoulder, the elbow and the hand roughly lining up. Not exactly, but roughly lining up. So you got all this surface area of the entire arm, almost vertical, that again is just pressing back. So it's a lot that's gonna help propel you forwards there. And then he just, from there, the hand and the arm comes up a bit shallower and he presses out the back. Now I'll show you on this right arm because we've got a better view of it. I'll show you an important factor that is sometimes missed by people when I'm doing video analysis. So again, on this right side, we see the fingers first entry, arm straightens out in front, gets this really good catch, starting catch position. Again, as he goes down, you'll see he gets into this nice high elbow position. And a way you can think of that high elbow catch is like from here to here, we want to get a little bit of this to happen, which is the upper arm won't stay in the same position, but a similar position for a split second, while the hand and forearm moves down. So not exactly, but in a similar position. So as we go through this, you'll see the hand and forearm moving down while that upper arm doesn't move a whole lot. So that helps you set up that catch. Now, that can feel a little bit awkward to do sometimes, or it's like, all right, how do I actually do that? And we actually need this little bit of what we call internal rotation through the shoulder. So if you think of like driving a car, for example, you're going to be in this position with the elbows like down. That's external rotation. Internal rotation is the other way, where it's almost coming up in this direction. We need a little bit of that to happen to help get this high elbow catch. And when we're running clinics, when I'm working with people in our stroke analysis coaching online, that's one of the things that when we're ready to work on the catch, that we just want to get used to that sort of feeling or that sort of movement there. So that's our high elbow catch on the right hand side. And if you haven't done our 5-day catch challenge, then I'll put a link to that below. It's a sort of 5-day program that you can go through that we guarantee you'll drop 5 seconds off your 100-meter pace in those 5 days. And we've had thousands of people go through that now. And I think if you don't feel like you've got a good catch at the moment, that would be the best way or best place to start. It's only $10. So that's the high elbow catch. Now, as he goes through this again, you can see, all right, from the side, we've got the power diamond, shoulder, elbow, hand roughly lining up. And I'll show you that from the front in a second. Now, with the catch, another thing that we get here is if we were to trace the fingertips as he goes through here, you'll see that the shape that it makes, it's kind of like a quarter of a circle. So if you've got the full circle like that, all right, it's like a quarter of a circle in the beginning if we're tracing the depth of the fingertips. And then as he continues to go through the stroke, you'll see it comes up like roughly like that. So it's like a light globe on the side, or a light bulb. I think in the States they pronounce it, they call it a light globe or light bulb. I can't remember. Either way, it's this kind of shape. So if you think of like a light globe on the side, all right, the shape or the depth of the fingertips is like a light globe on the side. Now, what I've seen quite a bit recently is that through the back part of the stroke, so through this part of the stroke, a lot of swimmers that I've started to work with, I've seen what they're initially doing is they're kind of going like this, and then they go super deep at the back, or the whole thing is like one big circle. So basically some people are just too deep out the back there. And if you're too deep out the back, I find it leads you to kind of getting a little bit stuck at the exit of the stroke, and you never quite get this nice acceleration or propulsion out the back. So the key to having the right depth with the hand and the arm is that once you've gone through your catch, so once you're here, then the hand and the arm should start to move upwards and inwards towards the hip through that back part. Again, not in any extreme way, but just in a minor way where you end up coming up shallower through this back end here. So inwards towards the center, towards the hip, and upwards as well. So we need to make sure we get that depth right. So that's there's some of the main things from the front. Now, the other thing I'll just show you here is if you have a look at his shoulder, right? So what's his shoulder doing through the catch? What you'll notice is that as he goes through the catch, the shoulder stays up a little bit. So if your shoulder is too low, let's say, I'll find a better angle for you here, where we can see it properly. This is a good one. So if we have a look at his shoulder, you'll see it's sort of pretty close to his cheek. It's not on his cheek, but it's fairly close, and it's about that same depth of his cheek. Now, the reason that's important is because when your shoulder is up there, that automatically moves you into that high elbow position a bit more. Whereas as soon as this drops, then you find that it just wants to get into more of a dropped elbow catch. So it's important to get this shoulder somewhere near the cheek, but again, not on it. Now, a mistake I see people often making here is that they will sort of think of that like, all right, my shoulder needs to be up here, but they'll cover their ear. Their shoulder will be like right up here. But again, that's too awkward. That's not a comfortable position for most people. So you don't want to cover your ear. You want to just be near the cheek. With the kick, obviously we want the heels to break the surface every couple of kicks there, which is good. And the other thing is with your upper part of your legs. Now, with the kick, you can bend your knees. We want your knees to bend, as you can see here. You know, we're getting some good bend in the knees, and that's what allows you to flick the foot down. You get that propulsion from the kick by bending the knees. So we need that to happen. But what we don't want to have happen is we don't want the top part of the legs to come too wide, too far apart, or too big in the kick there. I like to imagine as though you've got like a band that you might sometimes put around your ankles. Imagine you've kind of got something like that, but maybe a bit bigger, and it's around or just above your knees. It's kind of around there. And we don't want this part to come too far apart or kick too big. So this part, it's almost like you've got a tube or a pipe that sort of runs around there, and you're containing your kick in that sort of range. And if you've seen our videos before, you know I like to talk about like a sort of bucket or laundry basket out behind you, contain the kick in that sort of size. That's kind of the range that we typically want. But another way you can think of that is it's really this part of the legs where we want to keep in a fairly limited area. So you can kind of see it here that he never gets like too far apart with it. It all stays reasonably sort of close together. So that's another one that can kind of just help you with the kick. Now from the front here, if we're looking at, all right, what's happening here? Well, one of the first things I like to look at is the alignment. So where does your hand enter? And you'll see here that he's entering in line with his ear or his shoulder on both sides. So with his left hand there, beautiful, right in line with his shoulder, or his ear. So it's really nice with the alignment. We call that swimming on train tracks. So whenever your hand enters, enter in line with your shoulder or your ear and try and go straight forwards. And you'll see it happen here for him. Straight forwards, yeah, beautifully in line with his shoulder on both sides. Now the next part of the stroke here is the catch, obviously. Now at the end of the catch, which is right here, if we measure the angle, so we're thinking of that high elbow position, but from the front now, if we have a look at that angle, you'll see what that comes out to be is roughly there. So 117 degrees. The range that we like to be in, and we'll see with majority of elite swimmers, 100 to 120 with that angle of the arm once you're in the catch. That's what we're looking for. And the reason that's important, or the reason we want to be there, is that kind of signifies that they've got a high elbow position, but from the front. So that's what we often see there. Now, the next part of the stroke that we're looking at here is the power diamond. Now, the power diamond, when we look from the side, this is when the hand is underneath the shoulder. From the front, what that looks like is this. It's like a half triangle sort of thing through here. Now, if we had that angle with both arms, or if we had both arms in that position, it looks like a diamond from the front. That's what we call the power diamond. So you'll see it's like the elbow is kind of pointing out to the side, the fingers are pointing down. That's our power diamond, and that is when the hand is underneath the shoulder. That's important because in this part of the stroke, if you've got that in place, it's quite a bit stronger, as in you can use your lats a lot more, you can use your back and your shoulders more when you've got this angle, compared to if you're quite deep and straight. So often we see people are just too deep and straight there. And I equate that to like trying to pull yourself out of the pool with straight arms. It's really hard to do. As soon as you get those elbows out to the side, hands a little bit closer to the body, you can be a lot stronger, a lot more effective with it. So that's why I want to get this power diamond. And in the catch challenge, I think it's day 3, where you'll cover that part of the stroke. And then through the very back part of it, you'll see, okay, he gets the power diamond, hand comes in towards the center a little bit, and then he presses back past the hip. And you can see pretty much from about here through to just before he gets to the hip, have a look at the direction that his palm is facing. It's going like straight back behind him, continues, keeps going. And it's not until about now, at the very end of the stroke, where the palm of the hand turns into the body. And that's just a natural thing that helps you kind of exit. But aside from that, the palm is facing back behind him all the way through. So that's important because often we'll see like some people will actually have their palm facing like into the body from about there. And they're just like slicing out the back. They're just missing out on a huge opportunity through the back part of their stroke. So keep that palm facing behind you all the way through. Now, the other thing here is if you're thinking like, where should my hand be through the different parts of the stroke? They used to teach a big S-shaped curve, like pull through in an S shape. It's sort of like that, but it's more like a long S. So yes, there'll be a curve to it, but not a whole lot. So the way that I like to think of it is it's like you're tracing the outside line of your body. So the hand will start in line with your shoulder, then the hand will come away from the center a little bit, go out to about shoulder width, then come in, and then follow there. So this outside line of your body, that's what we're tracing there with the hand. That's roughly the path it should it should take. And again, if we look at the shoulder, so let's zoom in here. Let's check out where the shoulder's at. Kind of see it there. So again, yeah, it's just sort of near his cheek. So that's sort of what allows him to get that really good catch. So the very last thing here is just his stroke rate. So I measured this before. He's around 81 to 82 strokes a minute. Let's play this in full speed as well. He's around 81 to 82 strokes a minute. I can't remember exactly what his rating was for the Ironman swim, but I imagine it's probably pretty similar to this. So, reasonably quick rating, and with this kind of technique and this kind of stroke, it's no wonder that he's swimming so quickly. So thanks to Lukasz for sending this through. Go follow him on Instagram. I'll put his details below. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I'll be back with another video next week. My New Year's resolution is to make sure I publish a video every week. So keep me accountable to that one. And same with podcasting. I'm making sure we publish a podcast each week for this year. So thanks for watching, and I'll be back next week.